All right. Let me make sure I get Gina promoted here so she can help out. Gina, I just made you panelist. I'm getting ready to make you co-host.
Okay, Gary, I got you covered. I'll start in.
Okay, you're co-host now.
Yep, I'm working on it.
Okay, good. Okay, everybody, we got a great guest tonight, Ken Wimberly. So Ken and I met each other I guess that was Lake Tahoe, March 2015, at my first Go Abundance event. And we sat at the table together, throughout the weekend. You switch tables and stuff, and hit it off pretty well. And I ended up going to teach for a night at his market center. Let's see, Abilene, right?
Yeah, Abilene, Texas.
Yep. So I've been there a couple times, and in any case, there were some neat things that went on at these events that we would go to, and people were recognized for different things. And Ken always stood out because he was in extremely good shape. I mean, most people in this group are in good shape. What's funny, Ken, is remember we used to do the contest in the morning, push-ups and all that stuff. So the prior record the year before for push-ups was 82, and I was at the time 52 years old. So I was in the over 50 gang, and I did 86, and I'm thinking, I got it. I did 86 push-ups. All of a sudden, the other side of the room started erupting, and I looked over, it's Mark Yagi, did like 100. I'm like, holy, how could this happen, man? And I'm thinking, well, his arms are shorter than mine. That's got to be what it is, So,
it doesn't hurt.
Yeah, but some really neat guys, and Ken is absolutely one of the best. So we're going to talk about two things tonight: triple net leases, because I want you guys to understand how and why those are traded. It's kind of big business, right? It's been historically in the world of commercial brokerage, but I've been meeting agents from all over doing it in the residential world. We call them resimercial, I guess. They're doing residential and commercial. And I thought we need to bring this into the team and show you guys. And then also, Ken also created a program called Legacy of Love, and I'm gonna let him talk about that too, because it's probably even more important. And it's gonna really you're gonna get to see a little bit of this man's heart. And I think you should really hang in there and pay attention to that part. We're gonna do a two-part class here, okay? So Ken, I figured we'll just do this like conversational style and for like a side-by-side interview. But if you wouldn't mind, maybe fill people in just a little bit on, how you got into this, and in the world of brokerage, I came to know you as sort of the triple net guru, because everything I saw out there came from you. As soon as you put something out there, man, it'd be gobbled up in seconds,
Yeah.
So, yeah, but if you would just paint a broad picture first, and then we'll get into some details,
Yeah, well, I mean, I've been now 20 years in the real estate business. I entered in October 2002 into the commercial real estate business. Never sold a house in my life, so I went straight into the commercial world. And for probably the first 6 years of business, I mean, the first year was just grinding it out, trying to figure out what my life was going to be like, working 12 hours a day and trying to get my first deal under my belt. But as that happened, I ended up in the land brokerage business for about 6 years. And it just so happened that's who I'd met. The people I'd met, people who took me under their wings, were a couple of land developers, specifically residential lot developers that took me under their wings. And so I ended up being basically a bird dog for those guys for a bunch of years, and only did buy-side land deals and would go assemble those types of properties. And that worked out great, until 2008. And that was a really different world when the financial market shut down in 2008. Land was one of the things that got hammered the hardest. And so for a land guy, I had to get kind of creative and figure out what my next stage of life looked like there. And so for a couple of years, I did a whole lot of bank REO work, made a relationship with a couple of good local banks, and started helping them do some workouts and get rid of some of their troubled assets. Did that for a couple of years, and really just did a lot of random things. Was still helping some people sell off lots that they couldn't get rid of. Of course, now they're a whole lot cheaper than they used to be. helped get through some of that. And then hired my first business coach in 2010. And it was my business coach said, look, Ken, you're doing a whole lot of transaction volume for a whole little amount of money. And so we need to kind of get that dollar amount raised on your average transaction value. And so really started looking at what the opportunities were. And at the time it was pretty much multifamily or triple net investing. And I just gravitated towards triple net leases. I'm a CCIM. I got my CCIM in 2010. I've got a finance degree from college. I've always been kind of a numbers junkie and a spreadsheet guy. So I like doing financial analysis on properties. And so triple nets were kind of right up my alley in assessing, a single tenant or 2 or 3 tenant building is not an overly complex transaction. If you understand, basic financial math, it's not overly complex. And so that just lined up, seemed to make sense for me. And that's what got me into the business. And, over the next few years, that was probably 2011 when I started getting into triple net investing. And over the next, 4 or 5 years, ended up scaling a pretty large team, large business. We were doing, 100+ million a year in transaction sales. And that worked out well. And that led to other opportunities. Ended up with owning a Keller Williams franchise. So we started that in Abilene, Texas, which is what brought me out to Abilene, which is what brought you out to Abilene there through that. And so own that, still own a part of that franchise right there. And that led to other opportunities. We started investing in shopping centers, mostly B and C class retail shopping centers that we go rehab. So we started investing in those. And then eventually that led to launching our laundromat company. So now we've got 3 laundromats, working on our 4th and 5th. Hopefully get started on those by the end of the year. And building the laundromat business. And then at the same time, we started, Legacy of Love and the mobile app for parents. So we kind of did a little bit of all of that. It's just one thing's led to another, led to another. So we still do some triple net investing work, really just for a handful of clients these days is what I do. I've got a couple of really, really good clients that we do some work for. And beyond that, we're buying and selling shopping centers primarily that we can put our laundromats in the future.
Okay, awesome. Well, you definitely got a varied background in investing, serving investors, and being an entrepreneur, being an owner of your own KW Market Center. And I know I was there at least twice, and a great group of guys too.
Yeah.
Even taught out. Was in Midland, Odessa. I think I taught there.
In San Angelo. Yeah. And we got now that KW led to another one. And now we've got another office in San Angelo. Yeah.
And in fact, when I was out there, I actually got to be on Fox News in Midland. And it's like 6 a.m. And I don't know if anybody's heard the story. I flew in the night before, had to drive from DFW out there. He didn't get into like after midnight. I get up at 5 to get to the news station. And I woke up, went to the shower, and I forgot, I didn't bring my razor. I did have the cartridge, the replaceable cartridge. So kind of trying to hold this cartridge and do like this to see. And I took a huge chunk out of my chin. Although, oh man, what do I do now? I'm going to be live on television. Sure enough, they put me out there live for 5 minutes. I'm thinking, and I got to promote the market center and the class and everything I was teaching that day. It was awesome. The whole time I'm seeing this big giant lump on my chin. So, but in any case, it just goes to show you the stuff you don't see that goes on behind the scenes. But in any case, so back to the class. We could probably talk about 10 different things, but if you could, when it comes to triple net leases, and guys, I want to tell you this. This is one of those classes where we want you to ask questions. I mean, we always want you to ask questions, but when you have somebody like Ken on, he knows his stuff. He's really one of the world's good guys. And he's education based, just all around. I mean, just an absolute wonderful A+ citizen. So don't be shy. So if you could, Dave, for those who don't know, could you describe what is a triple net lease, and then that'll lead us to, well, why would somebody sell it? Why would someone else buy it, and how can we participate?
Yeah, it's funny, when I got into this line of business, I had no idea what it was. And I started calling everyone in my database. I have a pretty sizable database from just being in the business at that point, 9, 10 years. And I was describing that to them and asking their kid, are you familiar with triple net investments? And 8 out of 10 said no on that. And still a lot of people today are not. So when you hear triple net, the 3 nets refer to taxes, insurance, and common area maintenance of a property. Often they're retail, they can be medical properties, they can be industrial triple net properties. But when people talk triple net, it generally means that the tenant is paying for taxes, insurance, and maintenance on the property. A lot of people, there's sometimes misnomer in the way that triple nets are used. Someone say, oh, it's a triple net property. And really the tenant is only paying for some of those things, not all of those things. When folks refer to a true triple net property, the tenant is paying for all of those, all taxes, all insurance. And sometimes they pay the taxes and insurance direct, and just give the landlord receipts that has been done. Sometimes it's a 100% reimbursement. And then sometimes it's a modification of those things with some responsibilities still left on the landlord's plate. Typically when most common, what you would see is maybe a roof and structure requirement still left on the landlord. Sometimes it includes parking. Sometimes it includes other components right there. So as many things in life, the devil is in the details. And it's important to kind of read through the lease and amendment documents and understand what you're getting into.
Okay. All right. So now within the world of triple net leases, typically they're longer term. In other words, there's probably very few that are short term, being like a 1-year lease. There's, there could be 10 years, 30 years, even 99-year leases. So 99-year lease that would be like maybe a Circle K on a great intersection. And
I think with the long 99-year lease, those would typically be on a ground lease situation, not with a typical lease, but within a normal triple net, they would, when I say within normal, often they're, 10, 15, 20, maybe 25-year leases with extensions and options beyond there.
Okay, good. So really, if you think about it, the owner of the property's got almost like an annuity. He's got something paying him for, again, 10, 20 years maybe. So that in and of itself is what makes it a commodity that can be sold. He could sell that stream, but he or she could sell that stream of income. So now when it comes to the actual, why would they sell? How do you arrive at those? I mean, I know a lot of commercial guys get started doing commercial leasing. They literally go around and visit business owners and say, hey, look, I may be able to get you a better deal. There's a new place being built a few miles from here. Would you be interested if I could get you some numbers? And then they get a lease deal out of it. And all of a sudden they can maybe help the current guy fill his vacancy, get in contact with the owner. And then later on, maybe the owner would have that agent help them buy or sell a property. That's a lot of times how commercial guys get started. But back to the triple net lease. So what role, how does the agent play a role? Like, how do they actually arrive at that seller, the owner, willing to sell that 10-year lease? What do they get out of it? And what's the motive behind that?
Yeah, each owner is different on the motive. Often, like there are merchant developers. Their job is to go, build for particular tenants, do build to suits for tenants right there. And often those guys, that's the way they make their money, is they build the buildings, they make a little profit on that, but then they sell them and they make a spread between the lease rate that they leased it and what the market is dictating on a cap rate basis right there. So merchant developers are ones that are often selling, but there's a vibrant market in the triple net assets. Sometimes someone really likes the longer term, like I only buy 20-year leases. I'm looking for these long-term 20-year leases. And when they get down to 10 years, they're like, okay, well now I've kind of had 10 years of ownership of this, and now it's getting a little shorter than in my comfort zone. So they'll go and sell at that 10-year point. Or same thing for folks that buy 10 or 15-year leases. Once it gets down to around 5-6 years, they start getting a little nervous because there becomes a renewal risk at that point. You've got 5 or 6 years left on it. The tenant may, decide that, hey, we've been 10 years into this deal. We should have been 2 miles down the road. We'd be more comfortable right there. Or there's been new development a couple miles down the road, and that may not be a better place. So there becomes a risk, the shorter term that's left on that lease. So there's a pretty vibrant market for leases that hit that 6-year period or less right there, because there's much more risk of non-renewal from tenants.
Right.
And a lot of times those tenants aren't going to give you a heads up on whether or not they're going to renew until the last, period in their lease when they're obligated to do so. And they've got their renewal options right there. It's not uncommon at all to buy something with 2 or 3 years left on the lease, and the tenant really won't show their cards on whether or not they're, and frankly, sometimes they don't know. They're just not in that period where they don't know yet. They may be happy there, but they got to keep their options open for opportunities for them to move somewhere else.
Yeah. So now, is it, when it comes to any of us as agents or brokers participating in this, our role is obviously help the owner, whoever the landlord, the owner of the lease, sell the lease if that's what they want to do, for probably the most money they can get, obviously. So somebody's buying a stream of income. So the owner that currently has the lease, they're just basically cashing it. They're taking a certain dollar amount now in exchange for them giving up that stream of income for the next however many years are left, 6, 8, 10 years left on the thing. So is it better for agents to do this? It seems to me like having a network would be a very important thing. If you already have a network of investors that you communicate with, or be plugged into a network, versus just trying to put the thing out there on one of the listing services like LoopNet or CoStar. But between those two options, I think my experience with you, Ken, is you literally would just put an email blast out. We'd all see it, and the thing would usually be gone. I mean, I've never saw one, I don't think, last more than a day. So it seems to me like the network would be the big thing. But is it common, or is it typical for an agent to actually actively promote it on other venues like LoopNet, CoStar, or things like that?
Yeah. Well, first, it may look like it's only there a day, and I wish it was quite that robust, but reality is it takes a little more time than that, even with a really vibrant, active market right there, just to get the proper exposure. Yeah, it helps a lot to have a robust, deep database. We've built our database over 20 years now, and constantly adding to that, and that network of people, and knowing owners, knowing investors, knowing who likes to buy what types of properties really helps that, because sometimes it can be just a handful of phone calls to get to the right person. Some people, I mean, it's really weird. Some people really like to see things before they get shopped around. And so it really makes sense to have that list of your top 10 or 20 people. You can pick up a phone and call them. But then also, there's only so many people that you can call and do something quickly. Email is super effective. The listing services can be effective. The e-blast services can be effective in doing this. But it's really important to know the details of that property when you start fielding phone calls, where you can make sure that you kind of make the right deal for your owner.
Yeah, well, that makes sense. And what, and again, I know every case is going to be different. Every lease is different. Every owner is different. Every buyer is different. But let's say somebody's got they've got a 10-year lease, or maybe they had a 20-year lease and they're 10 years left. The owner's sitting there thinking, okay, I just want to retire, but I don't want to give up the asset. Is there a ratio that seems to be the sort of the benchmark? In other words, if you've got 10 years left, it's 120 months, it's say $5,000 a month. So whatever that comes out to, I guess that's going to be what, $600,000, something like that. No, or 6 million. Yeah. So what would a typical owner want to see in exchange for selling that stream of income? I mean, they're not going to get a full 6 million. Obviously, they're going to discount it to a certain degree. Is there a benchmark there we can shoot for?
Well, look, these properties are sold on cap rates on annual income is the way they're sold. So annual net operating income, and it's studying the market, kind of looking out there and seeing where things trading for, and not just for a triple net property, but what kind of property is it? Who's the tenant? What's the credit of the tenant? Where's the location of the property? How's the condition of the property right there? Because even though the tenant's responsible for it, if you're buying a property in really rough condition and you've got the tenant going to pay a bunch of CapEx on that, then that may be one more reason that your tenant is wanting to kind of vacate on you. There's a lot of factors that go into it. There is a range of cap rates that you can look and find on the market. You look and depending on the state you're in, you may be able to find true sold comps, or if you're in a state like Texas, really helps to know your database in your market right there, so that you can get some intel from fellow brokers and owners of these kind of properties, know what they actually sell for. But like I said, there's a range right there. And then there's like a whole lot of other details that go into it, including particularly the location of the property, the markets that they're in, their submarkets, the access. There's dozens of little factors that go into ultimately the likelihood and the speed at which they'll sell and the kind of cap rate that they're going to sell.
Okay. All right. Now for agents, is this something that would be, so let's take an agent who's just breaking into commercial. And I mentioned earlier, what I've seen most common is we have them work on leases first, helping people find spots to run their business. And they can get typically 10% for the total lease amount.
Yeah.
In a case of a sale of a triple net lease, again, is there a benchmark or like I know we're all real estate agents here. We should be able to speak freely, but I know we can't say, yep, you're always getting 6%, but what would you normally expect as an agent to collect in the way of a commission on a percentage basis on helping someone sell a triple net?
Gary, that's going to vary widely, honestly. And a lot of that comes into the size of the property. Is it a $1 million property? Is it a $15 million property? Is it a $60 million property? Right.
Mm-hmm.
The larger on those properties are typically going to be a less percentage wise on the sale right there. It's still a big dollar amount.
Yeah.
But you're gonna see that get whittled down into and a lot of times when you get into the really sizable large properties right there, many times that the agents are taking those, they're not putting it on the active market. They're really working their database right there, calling their targeted list of investors right there, because maybe they only get 1%. Right.
Yeah.
That's what they've got right there. They get 1% to work with, or 1.5%. So they're out there hustling and making. If it's a $1.5 million property that's got 3 or 4 years left on the lease, maybe you get a 6% fee on that. You might, you might not, just because there's so many people out chasing those right now. But to your point of, or your comment on if an agent's getting into this, and I mentored under someone else for 3 years as I got into this business, and like every deal I did for them, we split the deals right there, and I mentored with them. And he had been in it for 10 years so that I could learn that. And I'd already been in the commercial real estate business for 10 years. But when I got into this, I really worked with someone else side by side for a while to truly learn this inside and out. Because there's just so much and so many things you think you've got that you can really go wrong on.
Yeah. Lots of variables. Every one is different,
I wrote a white paper. If you remind me, I'll send it to you, send it out to your group on,
Okay.
I forget what I titled it, but it's basically like 10 factors to consider when investing in triple net assets right there. I read about 4 or 5 years ago, and it's still as relevant today as it was back then.
I think I remember that. Yeah. Because I had to, I don't know, I think it was a podcast I had you on, but that wouldn't have been 4 years ago. That would have been more like 3 years ago. But yeah, if you don't mind sharing that, we've got some avid learners on the team here. That would be awesome. Okay, guys, let's open it up here. We got some commercial folks here. Craig Cannon, Craig Leverett, both commercial. I know Randy, you'd like to do some commercial. Betty's on. Betty's already doing commercial. I know Catherine would like to do some commercial. Let's see who else. I'm only seeing 23 pictures and names, and there's 37 people on. So I'm not sure. The rest of you might be on the phone or something. I'm not sure. But guys, here's your chance. So I'll just call on a couple of you. So Craig Leverett, I know you've been in the business a little bit. Have you ever seen, or has anybody ever approached you about doing a triple net lease?
Yeah, actually, a few years ago, a friend of mine, he's in the restaurant business, and we was looking for another building for him in a different town in Aiken, South Carolina. And he was the first one that I heard talk about a triple net lease. I had no clue what it was, and he kind of gave me a scenario of how it works and what it was. But he didn't purchase the building.
Okay. Hey guys, if you have questions, now's the time to type them in, because we're gonna.
As I say, I see one from Kay says, "How can these leases go bad?"
Oh.
Yeah, The leases, well, I guess first I would say they could be structured poorly from the get-go, meaning there could be no clarity in terms of who is responsible for certain things, either whether that's the tenant or the landlord. I think that's one of the worst things, is when there's no clarity. And then there's arguments back and forth on who is truly responsible for a different scenario. But a lot of times the leases can be great, but the tenants fail. And or the tenants go dark right there. And typically that's, a pretty bad economic condition. The tenants go dark on there. And that for sure happens. Or it's just not that strong of a tenant, right? It's a local or regional tenant. It's not a true national, tenant with hundreds or thousands of locations. It's a regional tenant that's maybe got 5 or 7 locations. I've seen this happen. I saw this happen not long ago with a building that one of my clients owned, and it was a regional, pretty successful restaurant chain, yet seemingly successful, right? So on the exterior, it looks successful. When they reviewed their financials, it looked successful, but eventually they filed bankruptcy and then kind of went belly up. So you thought you had this great, beautiful 10-year triple net asset, and then what ended up happening was you had a really expensive building that you built for someone that you had to find a replacement tenant for.
Okay.
Question: COVID influence investors and inventory. It did for a minute. It really, of course, in 2020, I mean, everything was a question mark. What was going to happen? How are things going to work? The government just pumped so much money into the economy. It resuscitated the net lease investment business pretty quickly, and investors took a lot of that money and put it right back to work right there. So, if anything, it's increased the velocity over the last couple of years. It's been really relatively crazy. As far as inventory, I'd say inventory has been historically low right now, just because of the velocity of investors and more people and institutions moving into the asset class, more and more people putting funds together to go after this. So inventory is historically pretty low on this today.
Okay.
For leases, do you get paid monthly or when the deal is signed? Almost always. If you're talking about leases, typically, if you're talking about, getting paid for leases, it would be a portion at time the deal is executed and a portion at time after the tenant moves in and starts paying rent. So as far as how the leases go, if you're working commercial real estate on the leases, I've done deals in the past early on in my business where we took commission over the time of the lease. We got paid, a few $100 a month on the deal, and I actually didn't mind those. It's just like a current, annuity income coming in right there. So, but it's been years since I've done anything like that, but I've done them in the past. It worked out pretty well.
Nice.
Then building a database, do we need to know who owns properties that have units that are leased? 100%. And no matter what, I think whether you're in the net leased investment sales business, you're in the multifamily business, you're in the industrial business, whatever niche of commercial real estate you're in, I think that's one of the most important things you can do, especially getting started, is to build a database of who owns what and get to know those people that either own the key properties you're interested in or that own multiple properties right there. Really get to know them. And I mean, I tell everyone that your objective should be that within 5 to 7 years in the business, you're getting 75 to 80% of your business from maybe 5 or 6 people. You're doing just a bunch of business with a handful of people, because then you can just pour into those people and love on those people and get to know those people and really develop, I've got, lifelong friendships with some of my top clients today. I only do work for probably less than 5 clients is primarily what I get referrals that come in, and I'll handle those and assign to team members. But I only personally spend a lot of time working with just a handful of clients today. But that's from a decades of grinding and kind of hard work and establishing relationships.
Yeah, I know for me too, Ken. Early on, I mean, I already was an investor myself, so naturally I gravitated towards other investors. And I used to say, I'm pretty sure I got more friendships out of the business than ever got business from friends. And we've to the point where I mean, I go to their children's weddings. I've been to skiing with them at their vacation homes in Vail and places like that. Just amazing. And you're right, it actually came down to probably fewer than 10 people. And that's all I had to do. And then I started my own brokerage, and it was even fewer. And there's still a couple people today that we do things together, but I'm not directly serving them. We're partnering on things, and one of them's literally just a few miles from here. And by the way, Brian, I'm about a half mile from one of his market centers here in Inglewood, Florida. So he's got another one up in Sarasota, but you can do that with investors because they're going to stay in the game. The good ones will be in the game for a life, so you develop these wonderful relationships, and life actually does get easier, so
Yeah.
You touched on a couple key things there. I think I saw a few more questions pop in too.
Yeah, there's a couple. There was one, Michael, do you see any sort of a market for investors from the USA interested in investing abroad in triple net investments? I haven't personally seen any of that. There's a lot of external, and not in triple net investments. I've seen people and friends of mine that have looked at investing in coffee farms, investing in kind of different things overseas, or in like resort developments and things like that, but not in triple net investments overseas. So that's personally in my one person's limited world right there. I haven't seen any of that. I've definitely seen foreign money interested in coming into the US and investing, but there's all kinds of hoops to jump through with that as well. Why would a building owner allow triple net lease to be sold, like factoring your receivables? Well, if you are the owner of it and you have this lease in place and you have a mailbox money coming in, I mean, yeah, it could be like, it is like the thought of factoring receivables if you're thinking that, but there's a lot of reasons why you might sell that property. So I'll give you an instance, when we go in and do something, we went and bought a vacant building, and then we found a tenant and put that tenant in the building. And we got them to pay us, let's just do easy math, $100,000 a year to be in that building. And say the building had cost us, $500,000, and they were then paying us $100,000 a year to be in that building. And then we could go sell that building at a, they were a decent tenant. We could sell it at a 7 cap. Let's see, what would that come out to? Oh my goodness, that's assume there's going to be some tenant finish out costs. We buy a building for $500,000. We give the tenant a couple $100,000 in tenant improvement dollars. So we're $700,000 into it. They pay us $100,000 a year in rent, and we sell it at a 7 cap. So we could sell it for $1.4 million. So now we've got the $100,000, which is great, but we can kind of manifest $1.4 million today on a $700,000 investment. And then if we exchange that, we can delay our capital gains until some point in the future, or keep doing that to the point we die. We can delay them until we get a step up in basis at death right there. So there's, one reason is monetizing the value you brought to something. Another is, like I mentioned, some people just get nervous when the leases get shorter. Another is maybe something about that tenant, or you've heard something about that tenant. And you're like, I don't really want to be in business with this particular tenant anymore. And you want to get out of that. So there's a whole bunch of reasons on why you might go ahead and sell a net leased asset that you own. I've got it when we're about to, actually, it's on the market right now. It's just getting shorter term. It's got 6 years left on it. The guy that bought it, it had, I think 13 years when he bought it. Now it's got 6. And he's like, I think I'm going to sell. He said, I've heard this tenant is, tough at renewal time, and even though, the tenant's got options in their lease. Remember this, like, options are always to the benefit of the tenant. They're not to the benefit of the landlord. Because, that option, maybe your tenant says, yes, we want to exercise the option. Oftentimes those options have, fixed rate renewals in there. So the tenant, maybe there's a 5% rental increase, or maybe there's a 10% rental increase. And you're thinking, oh, this is great. I'm going to get a 10% above my rent. But that is the option of the tenant. The tenant can also come and negotiate with you and, kind of hamstring you on that deal. So in this particular deal, the landlord had heard the tenant was a pretty tough negotiator at renewal time. And he's like, I don't necessarily want to deal with that. I'd rather sell it today, let someone else deal with that renewal risk, and I'll go buy something else with a longer term on it. So that's a common exit reason.
Okay. Okay.
And then I think there's a question on different types of leases. Well, we talked about triple net, absolute net, and then you could go down the road from there to double net, meaning maybe the tenant pays taxes and insurance, but the landlord is paying for a portion or all of the maintenance. And then into gross leases, where the tenant is just paying kind of a base rent on there, and the landlord's paying the balance of the others. And a lot of times in gross leases, there will be kind of a base level, base year level, as if taxes or insurance increases above the base year when they moved in, then the tenant will pay their kind of share of those above a base year level. And then all the way down to where, look, a full service kind of deal. All I'm paying is one payment, and I get electricity and everything included in my suite right there. So you got everything from that, which is, think of that like an all bills paid apartment, going all the way up to the true triple net.
Yeah. And I would think too, I mean, anything can be for sale, even a typical residential lease where the tenants, got everything paid for, gas, electric, everything. But those leases probably will be less valuable to an investor. I mean, what makes triple net leases so valuable is there's more certainty. There's, as far as your net, you're pretty close to being the true net. That's why they call it. Yeah.
Yeah, and they have to call it mailbox money in there. And sometimes it truly is. And sometimes it's, the tenant wires their money into your bank account, and they handle direct payment of taxes. And so it's sometimes really, really, it's great. Now, for those, you're typically earning a much lower overall cap rate on those and return on your money right there, because so much of the risk, so much of the headache has been taken out of that. So maybe you're earning 4.5% on your money versus, what you're doing with a all bills paid kind of apartment deal. You're probably earning 15% on your money on one of those right there. So but you got a whole lot more headache and a whole lot more issues. So you got a whole spectrum of investments and opportunity.
Yeah. So, okay. This has been good, guys. I guess I want to remind you, I do want to save time to talk about the legacy of love. So we're sitting at 28 minutes to the hour now. So just hand raise. Everybody feel like you got a good overview of triple net leases, and why people might want to sell them, how you determine the value, things like that, and what your role would be in it. Okay, good. Now, Ken, would you mind? And you can share screen too if there's anything you want to show us online about the legacy of love. But is it okay if we switch gears and?
Hey, Gary, one
yes.
second before you go there. The chat box has stuff in it, but the Q&A also does. There's a second message in Q&A. Here, let me read it. Michael McGran, how will blockchain technology affect resale of triple net investments?
That's an interesting question. I was asking a title company what they thought about blockchain technology the other day, because I'm very curious on how things play out and what that does. But the short answer is, I don't know how that plays out. This title company owner didn't seem to be very worried about it. I have an opinion that it will affect title dramatically down the road as blockchain plays out. But unfortunately, I don't know the answer. I have no crystal ball on any of that. So, and someone had their hand up too, but I hear PF how can you convert a conventional lease into a triple net? It's at lease renewal is where that would happen. So when your tenant comes up to there's time to renew their lease, you would then just say, look, here, we're going to do a new, we bought a shopping center. And as the tenants are, we're making improvements to the center. And then as they were not on triple net leases, they were in kind of modified gross leases or double net leases. And they were on a variety of different lease types and lease forms. But as they're coming up for renewal, we're trying to put them on a common lease form and on a true kind of triple net lease basis. And then it's a negotiation, just so you know, just because you say, hey, you're going to do this, they have, they can choose to do that, or they can choose to vacate your center and go somewhere else. And there may be tenants where you just assume for that to happen and get a better tenant.
Mhm. Yeah. Okay,
And
you guys ready to switch
Yes.
over? So definitely pay attention to this next segment here. This is kind of unique. And, you know, just open heart, open mind, open arms. And Ken, if you want to show something or share something, you should be able to share your screen. You don't have to,
Okay.
just to make sure you know that option was there for you.
Yeah, I mean, I just share with you that, so I mentioned the other two parts of the business that I'm in. We've got a laundromat company that is very much of a mission-based laundromat company. And then the other thing that I created was really more a result of being a dad for all these years and what I had done for my kids when my daughter, who's now 19 years old, just finished her freshman year in college. When she was 10 months old and her brother was in the womb, I started a journal for each of my kids. And I said, you know, I don't want to miss out on all the little moments that I know are going to happen that I fear I'm going to forget. I was like, there were a few things that happened in my life around that time. My stepmother had given me like a scrapbook of my life that was the most beautiful story ever told, because it's like literally reading about me on paper. And then, I was like, okay, what can I do? I was like, I want to do something for my kids. And so I said, I'm gonna journal to them. So I started that in a Word document, because honestly, I can type faster than I can write. So I said, okay, I'll do it digitally in a Word document. And I didn't want to be that guy that started and stopped something. I was like, I want to be consistent on this. So I wanted to make some kind of commitment to myself where I could stick to it. And so what I figured I would do is once a month, write a story to them. Just, you know, sometimes it could be quick and easy, sometimes it'd be long, it'd be whatever. I'll just write a quick story about what was happening in our lives. And so I started that in, late 2003 is when I started. And I pretty much kept up with it. You know, some months I would get behind. I read through their old journals every once in a while. I'm apologizing to them often about, oh, it's been 2 months since I've written to you. But I always got back on the horse. And then eventually I started where I'd write more than an entry a month, and I'd kind of really keep up with it for them. And as probably 2 years into it, I figured out that you could put a photo in a Word doc. And so then I was like, oh, cool. Now I can put a photo in here. And then I was like, well, let me test out more and more photos. And eventually I learned, I don't know what the number was, but you put too many and it all crashes and is not good. But that was kind of the deal. But I kept just writing these stories for my kids. And it was a really neat thing. And I would share that with a bunch of parents because it really started to fill my heart with what I was doing. And then a bunch of parents started doing it on their own. Like they started writing stories to their kids and like, Ken, this is like a beautiful thing. It's probably the most important thing I'm doing. And as the years went on, people started really encouraging me, like, Ken, you should build something to make it easy. Because I think we're all sharing kind of a similar pain. Word was not super easy. I later started doing it in Evernote and then OneNote and then the notes on my iPhone when iPhone came out. So I ended up having stories in all these different places. And so anyway, people were like, you should create something. And I figured something was already out there by the time I had bandwidth to do anything with it. But I went and researched the market, and I couldn't find anything out there that really did a lot of the things that I wanted it to. I wanted it to be like really safe and secure. I wanted it to be digital. I wanted to be able to save photos and audio files and video files. And I wanted to create like a digital timeline of your child's life. I had all these things I wanted to do. And I just couldn't find anything that was really close to that. There were components of it here, and there were really photo journaling. There was that, and there was just journaling, nothing in between, and nothing that would allow like husband and wife to journal together into. So I wanted that, where parents could journal into a common journal for the kids. So what I ended up doing was, in fact, spending years of my life creating what is a legacy journal. I'll just show you. I will share this just so you can see it. But this is just our share. So you can go to legacyjournal.app and see what this is. It's it is a mobile app that kind of allows you to capture moments, memories, audio files, video files, truly to do like a digital timeline. It looks kind of like you're familiar with a feed on your phone like that. So you can kind of see little feeds right there. And it's really just a place to capture the stories that matter. You can do it on a tablet, on your phone, all these different places. Oh, if you go onto the website later, you can go check this out. One little explainer video, another, here, I'll just tell you to go to this place. Anyway, that's just a quick little thing. You can go on here and learn all about it. It's a free or a paid plan. You can go onto the website, learn all about it. But if you go to our YouTube channel at Legacy Journal, I don't know, go to YouTube and look up Legacy Journal. Okay. There is a featured video on there titled The Gift. And it's when I actually gifted my daughter 18 years worth of the stories of her life. And it was really gorgeous, beautiful moment. We both cried. So sweet. And that was my point in doing this. I mean, it wasn't doing it to one day create a product out of it. It was doing it so that one day I could gift my kids the stories of their lives. And so I did it for Grace last year. Knox just graduated high school. So I'll be in the next week or two, I'll be kind of gifting him his, 18 years of his stories. And then we've got a little guy who's 6. So I've still got lots more stories to go. And really for the older kids and for everyone, I'll keep writing, stories until the day I die. And when I'm gone, it'll be the final parting gift when I'm gone, will be all those stories that I've written since they graduated high school. It'll be kind of my final parting gift. But so that's a passion project of mine. It's, so, whether you use a product like ours or you use, whatever, a pen and paper or notes, whatever you do, I would encourage you to write down some of your memories and your stories. My mother passed last year, and I think the most valuable thing I received from all of her belongings were 3 letters that were written, not by my mom, but by actually her brother, my uncle. He's still living, but he had written her these 3 letters over the course of the years about their parents, my grandparents. And just learning these little details, I mean, I get chills thinking about my grandparents, and how my grandmother had supported my grandfather through him, being a young entrepreneur and building his business and all that stuff. It is the gold of life is getting those stories. So I would encourage you to, do something for your children where you're writing down a little bit of their stories in your stories, because it will be one of the most treasured things you could ever pass on.
Awesome. Well, I just made a note. I'm going back to Pennsylvania this week to see my children this weekend. I mean, they're grown adults now too, but Annie in particular. And I'm gonna do I've got all kinds of, mementos and pictures and stuff over there. So I'm gonna put it together. And and that the YouTube channel, Ken, that was Legacy channel, and look for the gift.
Let me go. I'll tell you. So our YouTube channel. Let me, if I go into your channel,
okay,
this channel, maybe I'll switch accounts.
Melody's doing a 7-inning stretch.
There you go.
I haven't seen a baseball game yet. I'm hopefully going to see a game this month. So.
Yeah, it looks like my kids are going to Auburn now, and it looks like Auburn may be still in the hunt right now. Speaking of baseball, cool. Okay, so it is. What is our channel name? Go to your channel.
Hey, Ken, while you're doing that, I just want to make an announcement real quick here. Hey guys, I want you to remember this. On Facebook, the Honey Badger group that we're in, okay, there's a lunch and learn that John Kitchens does, and he's going to have our own Gina on Wednesday, day after tomorrow. It's 1 p.m. Eastern, and it's on the Honey Badger Facebook page. Everybody should be able to have access to it because you're in that overall organization. But kudos to Gina. If you could just give her a pat on the back or a hand raise or a clap, or pretty amazing accolades. Yep. So the group is growing, lots of success. Here it is.
Yeah, I just dropped the link to the video in there. So if you can just save that for later, and it's, please, it's pretty sweet.
YouTube, okay, you guys can see that. You see it in the chat box? What I'll do is I'm gonna copy this, Ken,
Yep.
and I'll have
Yep.
Beverly sends out a email the day after every class. I'll have her put that in there. I just gotta save this real quickly.
And then I'll send you guys a copy of that white paper that I wrote as well, and you can kind of send that out because that was might be useful for just kind of looking at
Oh, yeah.
factors to consider when you're evaluating a triple net investment.
Yeah, no, I'd appreciate that. That I know for me personally, I mean, that's how I love doing this kind of stuff, because you can sort of get the nuances of things. But really, I like backing things up with a good read. You know, I can print it off, I can take notes, I can highlight things, and that's what really nothing feels better than when you actually learn something and you feel like you've learned it thoroughly. So okay, guys, any other questions, thoughts, comments?
I just have a thought. It's not a question at all. Ken, what a beautiful thing to slow down time with your family and make things important and have meaning. And what a gift to not only do that to your family, but to teach other people as well and to provide that. That is really is touching and beautiful. So thank you for sharing that.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. It is hands down been the most meaningful thing I've ever done. And I hope the idea helps other people. And I hope my children appreciate it as much as I've appreciated doing it. So,
Yeah.
They will. That's so fantastic. It makes my heart happy. Thank you for sharing. I'm so
We actually got several Texans on the call, and Neil Caldwell, is it you have a question?
Yeah, what time zone is that honey badger event?
That's 1 p.m. Eastern, right, Gina? Yeah, I think it's 1 p.m.
Right.
Eastern.
Yes, it's 1 p.m. Eastern. I was looking for the link really quickly. So it's 1 p.m. Eastern, noon Central.
Yep.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Gary, good to see you again.
Good to see you too, man. Let's see, Rosa James, I'm not in the market, but how do you become an investor? Hey, Rosa, do me a favor. Definitely, I think you did set up a call with me. So Rosa, when we have a strategy call, we're going to start at ground zero. Okay, we got lots of material, 6 training programs, 7 books, soon to be 8 books, and every journey starts with the first step, and that's what we're going to do. So I think I saw you set up a call. If you haven't, get that link from Jody, and we'll have a call, and we'll get the ball rolling on that one. So sound good? So, well, you guys are being quiet tonight. Maybe it's too hot. I know it's where I am. It's always hot, but it never goes above 90. But I know people are like at 100 degrees right now in Charlotte and other places, and that's pretty hot. So, well, Ken, listen, man, it's good to see you again, and I've been able to connect with some other folks. I don't know if Mark Yagi called you the other week and told him you and I touched base, and he was heading to Greece and some other places, and he said he's going to reach out to you.
nice.
So it's good to see the old gang sticking together.
Yes, it is. Yes,
So-
it is. Well, good to see you. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate all y'all's time and your graciousness, and wish everyone a wonderful week ahead.
You're welcome, and thanks for leading by example and being such a good role model for everybody. I mean, all around, guys. I know I'll probably know you better than anybody here on the call. I mean, I don't even. I'm sure people know you plenty more than I do, but from what I know, and absolute 100% solid person, good citizen, and stuff like this demonstrates it. So we really appreciate you for doing this. And guys, if you want to, I'll hang on. If you got anybody has follow-up questions, things like that on any particular projects, I am getting up at 3 a.m. to drive 14 hours to see my mom. So I do need to get to bed at a certain time, but I'll stay on a little bit longer if you guys want to,
All right. Thank y'all. Bye-bye.
All right, Ken, take care, brother. So
Hey,
guys, yes,
Pierre?
go ahead.
I'll find the link and get it over before Bev sends out. I just sent them over all the marketing today, so I don't think that they've designed whatever it is that they're going to send out. But a second I have that,
Okay.
and I'll email her also and get it. So I'll try and get it as early as humanly possible tomorrow.
Okay.
Cool. And then I just want to say that, hang on, Jenna is new here.
Oh, hey,
Neil,
Jenna.
yep. So Jenna's over in the Pacific Northwest. And did Thomas jump off already? Nope. Thomas is up there. He's up in California. He's new here too.
Hi.
Thomas. Nice to see you, Thomas. Nice to see you, Jenna. So you guys, I'll be looking for a call from you, a strategy call. You'll get the link for my schedule from Jody.
Just booked it.
Excellent. Good. And Jenna, where are you from? Northwest Washington State, Oregon?
I'm in Seattle, the Seattle area.
Nice.
Yeah.
You ever go over to Gig Harbor?
Yes, I love Gig Harbor.
One of my
Beautiful.
favorite all-time places. Whenever I'm within, even if I'm down in like Portland, Vancouver, I'll make the drive to go spend at least one night up there. You know?
Yeah, it's beautiful.
You
Yeah.
ever see the resident harbor seal that hangs around there?
Mm-mm.
Well,
No,
go out on a paddleboard or a kayak. He'll come up and play with you. It's
gotta go
hilarious.
find them.
He'll find you. He'll swim around you. And as soon as you're ready to take a picture, he'll dunk down. You're like, where'd that guy go? And he's behind you. Then you turn to take a picture there. He'll dunk down and come up on the other side. You know, don't just follow you around. It's amazing. Great restaurants too. So,
Yeah.
so
Thanks.
and Tom, where are you from?
San Jose.
San Jose. All right. One of my nephews is at well, I'm sorry, I know he's not San Jose. He's Santa Cruz. He's at UC Santa Cruz. He did marine biology there. So,
Around the corner.
oh yeah, pretty close. Yeah, San Jose's growing like crazy. Has been for a while.
Yeah, Google is coming to downtown, and all the big buildings, they already got chained off and they're empty now. It's crazy.
Wow.
Thomas, make everybody crazy. What does a starter home cost in San Jose?
You can get a fixer-upper single family for $7.99 right now.
Wow. It's
There's
crazy.
not much. That's about it.
Yeah.
You can get fixer-uppers for $2 million too here.
Yep. It's nuts.
Pretty crazy. So, well, okay, guys. This has been a joy for me because Ken and I go back several years, and he's a super nice guy. He's one of the he's a good friend, and you know, there's a lot of times I thought I was going to move to Texas because everybody I've ever met from Texas is pretty awesome. I got family there too, you know, up in Magnolia and Orange, Texas, and other places. But I need to get back on the road. I think I should just get an RV. That's what I should do. You know, you guys think I should travel around again, see everybody?
Absolutely. Come to Austin.
You got it, man. Austin's a fun place, especially
Yes,
if you
it
like
is.
eating outdoors and watching live bands play, you know?
It is hot though.
Yeah, that's okay. I can take the heat, you know? So, all right. Well, listen, I'm gonna cut out early tonight then, and I'm gonna try to get a good night's sleep and for my long drive tomorrow. But listen, I have a request here. On the 20th, first off, next week,
You're training on the 16th.
yeah, let's see. Oh, my EXP class?
Yeah, so if y'all are in Nashville, Gary and I and Bree are all training in Nashville on the 16th.
Actually, there's a few things coming up. So this Thursday, I'm actually teaching an icon class in university on the world. It's Thursday at 2, but then Monday, the 13th, Casey Brown's coming on, and he's going to show you guys how to actually help your clients raise money or find money for investments without, you know, going to traditional banks. But here's the coinky dink. On the 20th, Lisa Sears and I and Gina are all going to be at the conference, the shareholder conference. So we don't have a teacher for the 20th. And I want to see if I can ask a volunteer. It doesn't matter if you're on the team or not. Anybody can volunteer to teach a class as long as you've got a subject, something you're passionate about or you've developed a skill for.
Teach cooking.
Teach cooking. That sounds pretty good. So, well, I'll
Thomas,
tell you
you
what,
should talk to Neil because Neil does Cajun cooking and owned a
Oh.
spice place. And I know we got other people in here who cook, like crazy good cook. Like Thomas is like professional, oh my gosh, cook.
okay. That sounds good to me. I'm pretty limited in my abilities. So, Nellie does Persian cooking.
Ooh.
Okay. All right, Nellie, you're hired. I'll do dishes. Okay, tell you what, let me, if you guys have an idea, and if you want, or if you want to suggest somebody else to teach, please shoot me an email like in the next day or so, because we've got to get that ironed out. I very rarely cancel class. Usually it's not even scheduled. It's like Christmas, New Year's, the typical 4th of July, things like that. But on a regular basis, we try to have classes every single week of the year. So if you have a suggestion for someone or a subject, go ahead. I'm sorry. Yeah.
I nominate, was it Kendra Dobbins who was doing, had a bunch of stuff going on where she was doing a lot. She might be able to teach someone new like me something.
Kendra, are you still on? I see her.
I see her, but she's quiet right now, but I think it's pretty funny that we're nominating somebody who can't see anything. I say we all do that. Everybody else take a step backwards. Just leave Kendra right there.
She's playing possum. Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what, Kendra, if you're there, you just don't want to respond. You shoot me a message, but anybody else, please shoot an email to me, okay? Because we've got to figure this out like in the next, by the end of the week here. And I appreciate anybody willing to step up to the plate. And look at it this way, it's just us guys, and it gives you an opportunity to develop your speaking skills, which is extremely important, okay? You don't have to be perfect. I mean, Beverly will set you up. If I'm able to, I don't know the schedule, Gina, off the top of my head. I know Tuesday night we're definitely going to be off site, so that won't work. But Monday night I can't remember what the schedule is. I just don't think I should be committing myself to something I shouldn't do. So, all right, shoot an email to me. I'm going to look for suggestions for people and subjects, and we'll give ourselves 2 weeks to prepare, or sorry, a week and a half to prepare. And I'll make sure you're successful, so sound good, guys?
Good. Have a good night, everyone.
Yep. You guys have a good night too. And thanks for participating tonight. God bless you and your families. And I will see you Wednesday night. There's our team calls this Wednesday night. Remember, the monthly second Wednesday of every month is this Wednesday night, 7 p.m. Eastern. Make sure you're on for that. We got some good stuff to go over. So make sure you're there. And then Thursday night is the book group. Whoever's writing a chapter in a book, that's this Thursday night at 7. So we got that. We got the book. The first part is the body of the content is there. We still need formatting, but it's turning into a good one. It's a good big book. So,
hey, Gary, for the newer people that didn't know about book, can you tell really quickly kind of what book is about, and also give us a reminder where to upload it, because that's what I need the reminder of.
Yep. So what we're doing, guys, is I decided I'm going to write a book that showcases the global investor agent, what that means to be an investor agent, how it came about, why, like when Ken was talking about, he only has 5 or 6 clients now. That's one of the benefits of working with investors, is over time, you sort of the sweet stuff rises to the top, and you work with the best of the best, long-term relationships, buying and selling lots of properties, and you don't have to work as hard. So what I thought I'd do was describe all that in a book, and in the middle of me thinking about it and talking about it, I realized, you know what? I'm not just going to write about it. I'm going to demonstrate it firsthand experiences with people on the team who are doing transactions or working with investors, or even investing themselves. So there's 10 of us, 10 people on the team are writing a chapter, which is going to be part 2 of the book. So part 1 is the history and the how it came to be, and part 2 is actual case studies and examples. Okay, and we're even putting in the back all the testimonials we've received. There's hundreds of them. I put the testimonials in the other day. I think it's some crazy like 50 pages or something. And then we're going to put in the very back an index of all the transactions we've done. To date, we've done 437 transactions. Just amazing, It all started with one in August of 2020 was the first one. Willie Hayes got the first transaction. So less than 2 years, that's what we've been able to accomplish. So the books, we're going to get it out on Amazon. Gina and I are going to NAR in November, and we're going to take some backpacks full of books and meet people, shake hands, and give the book out and sign them, right? And everybody who's in the book gets authorship and distribution rights. And then after a year, everybody in the book is going to be able to do their own book using the same material, but then they're the primary author, and they get their picture and name on the front and all that, that they can use on their own. So it's I've seen it done before, not the second part. The first part I've seen done before, and it really does work. People love seeing real live case studies, stories from people actually doing it, and as the economy changes, I'm telling you, you're going to see a lot of agents either scrambling, trying to not know what to do, and then not able to figure things out, and possibly leaving. The last recession, half the agents left, but the half that stayed got a lot more business because volume only dropped 25%. But of the business that was going on in the last recession, would you agree that a larger percentage of it was investor transactions? Well, it was a vast majority. Okay. And we got all those transactions. So just know this, as this economy shifts, you're going to see agents leaving because they don't know what to do. You're going to see agents shifting, all right, because they do know what to do. And that's what this book is all about. Now's not the time to say, I'm going to go, I'll figure it out when it happens. It's going to be too late. Now is the time to figure it out. Be prepared in advance, build the relationships now. So in any case, that's what we're doing. And we'll do another book next year. So people that didn't get it to jump in this year, you can jump in next year. So, okay, thanks, Gina.
No, thank you.
Yep. And so look for the email from Beverly. She sent it out after the last book group meeting, which was, I guess that had been 2 weeks ago. Is that right? Yeah, I think 2 weeks ago. And in there, she gives you the Google Drive link for where you go. Actually, I think she said, she sent another email out today, guys. She did. So Gina, look for that from Beverly today. I think it says book group or something like that.
All right.
I had her updated. She put it in there today too. So
Perfect.
Yep. So, okay. Any other final thoughts or questions? Updates? Okay. Well, you guys have a wonderful night. I will see you Wednesday night for the team members, Thursday night for the folks in the book, or writing the book, and then everybody else, I'll see you next Monday. In the meantime, have a good weekend. God bless you and your families, and if you're traveling, travel safely. Okay. So,
Do the same, Gary.
Thank you. Good night.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Safe
Bye.
travels, Carolyn.
thank you. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye-bye.